I mean, it was the silliest thing. I mean, looking back on it, I mean, I don't have I have very little memory of the actual event anymore. Not that I think I ever did. Well, I did initially in hospital, but um, a sheet of ice had slid off the parapet of a building as I was underneath it, and it struck me on the top of the head, and the details around the rest are kind of fuzzy, but essentially I made my way back to town. We went to the hospital, and yeah, the rest is sort of without going into the specifics of how we got there. Ultimately, it was diagnosed as a moderate TBI, um, and then that's sort of where the journey began.
So, so you had a very, what we call a flat affect, with no expression in your face. Plus, I'm talking about the communication
Hmm.
changes that we observed. Plus, you were stuttering a lot, or we call that dysfluencies. So you had a lot of disruptions in the rhythm and the rate of your speech, and you were used to being a very fluent speaker, just thinking a thought and having it come out very smoothly and easily. You also had word finding problems, and you had memory problems, which were tremendously disruptive, like because that was a big part of you, this amazing memory that you had, right? Visual memory.
And I'm sure I wrote a few times in my journal, I'm going to sound like this, like a skipping record for the rest of my life. And I mean, I still have it a little bit, but not like I did before when it was so hard to get a thought out, and even picking the right word was difficult. Calling for a cab, 10 times a week, in the spring when there was still snow, when I was at my worst in terms of speech, was, eventually they just got to know, okay, yeah, are you at home? You're trying to communicate to them, because there's only one dispatcher, so we got to know it. So thankfully that made life a little bit easier. But oh yeah, I remember the first time I tried to order a pizza, and I said something rather, I swore rather mightily, hung up the phone, and checked to see if they had an app. I got my emotions under control, and my sleep to be somewhat consistent, and because there was, and I don't remember, but my partner describes it as, I was very angry and uncontrollable and very emotional, and I go from one extreme to the other. I'd sleep at odd times or in odd places, and I was just difficult, very difficult, and it took finding the right balance of medications in the beginning to allow me to have some measure of control. Um, and so by the time I started seeing you, that had been achieved.
Mm.
I was able to do, to pay attention, and not go from, crying 1 minute to yelling the next. Like I have pretty bad anxiety now. Like sometimes in the beginning it was hard just to show up at the hospital to have my telehealth session, and credit to Ashley, who was there. Like she would calm me down and chat with me until my appointment time, and then I would sort of be all ready to go and relax for Allison. Although there were still a few times where I showed up and I was just bound, just yeah, not quite ready. And Allison would calm me down, and
You
no,
had physical, you used to sweat and like,
oh yeah, I'd come in and then, like my heart. My partner got me a watch that measures my heart rate. So like right now I'm sitting at a nice 77 beats per minute. But I would come in and after the cab ride, because they took my driver's license away. I'd show up and I'd just leaving the house. I'd be up at like 120, and I could get to the appointment, and I'd just be sweating profusely. That fight, flight, freeze, or flee would be just through the roof. The adrenaline would be surging, and yeah, like there were times I'd hit 130 beats per minute, just getting into the hospital and just dying.
yeah. And I remember I would say to you, well, maybe we should do this at home, or like I was trying to give you an out and you'd say, no, I have to do this. This is good for me. So you were kind of already like very early on saying, I've got to do this. I've got to fit. Yeah, that was really critical.
That wasn't exactly my idea. That my counselor said, you're not gonna get over this unless you go and practice. And going to your appointments is a short little venture outside. It's controlled. It's measured. You know where the end is. Like you have to do these things, or it's never going to get better, and you're never going to move past little things. So it was a lot of baby stepping initially, with the anxiety and the depression. Now less anxiety. Now we're working a little more on the emotional problems. I think I equated it to having a tool board on your garage, and you go through life knowing perfectly wherever everything is on that board, and then one day, boom, every time you go to look at that board, so somebody's rearranged all the tools. It's a difficult sensation to describe, but memory no longer becomes the you have to be more careful with how you remember things, and just be a little pay I have to pay attention now and focus more on the things around me than I used to have to do.
Mm-hmm. So as that related to speech therapy, you used to take notes. I think you took notes after the session. I don't remember you taking notes during the session.
I would take notes during the session too. Very surreptitiously typing on my little tablet there, and I would take notes after the session as well, and expand on what I could of some of the ideas. Like my instantaneous memory was still pretty good.
Mm.
It was the short term memory, the few hours to a few days that was sort of problematic, especially. Um, but instantaneously, I was still doing okay. So I was able to make those notes and during our session, and then fill in a little bit more afterwards. But yeah, taking notes and treating it like a classroom, was. I mean, for me, that's how I like to learn, and that's how I can best set myself up to do my work at home successfully. Is to be as accurate as possible to what the session was. Never having had a serious injury, and then suffering a TBI that initially changed my whole life, from even basic tasks becoming complex, speaking, moving, sleeping, emotional regulation. Everything was different. uh, you want to believe your healthcare team that you're going to get better, but there's a sense of there's that little creeping doubt in the back of your mind that's saying, no, you're not going to get better. How can they be so sure? They've never been through it. They don't know what you're going through. And it's a difficult one to overcome and very easy to listen to. And I think if if you either need to talk to somebody about it who can help you work your way through it, or if you're strong enough, work your way through it on your own. I wasn't. I mean, I had multiple people who I deal with on a weekly basis, and they combined helped me to work past that. And yeah, it's very hard in the beginning. That hopelessness is, it's like walking along the edge of a cliff on a path. You know, if you just if you let go, or if you just look at it and you can go in. In the beginning, you know, it, I don't want to. I mean, it was almost like a fake it before you make it kind of thing. I mean, you gotta give yourself a lot of positive self-talk. I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna get better. I just have to buy into these into my exercises and my recovery plan, and you know, look at my goals and where I will want to get to, um, and eventually you start to see, you know, that progress meter just move a little bit. Now all of a sudden it's a little bit easier to believe, but you have to buy into your recovery plan. For me with a TBI, that was speech, that was athletic therapy, that was a neurology specialist, that was a counselor to help deal with new anxiety and emotions, and all, you have to put in the time with what they're saying to get that bar to move away from that hopelessness you want to fall into, because the desire to fall into it is strong. It's strong. You don't think you're going to get better, but I mean, you can, and it is a journey. Every time you see a little more progress, you get a little more hopeful, and you think, wow, like this is working. And then you want to push yourself really hard to get it going. Because I didn't understand a lot of, emotional stuff, that I thought that you would fix me, kind of thing.
Ah, that's interesting.
uh, and especially with the counselor part, like that you tell me what I need to do differently, and I could do it, and that would be that. You know, with those unseen things, uh, the way you approached it with me was probably pretty exact to what I needed. That okay, I'm here to I'm here to show you the path that you need to work. But if I don't put in that work, what you're showing me to do has very little value.
Right.
It's great from an intellectual standpoint, but if I don't do what how if I don't follow where you're leading, I'm not going to get better. And
Mm.
I think you established to me that understanding very very quickly, and at least that was my feelings about it in my journaling. Was that okay? This is like a musical instruction. You're can show me everything I need to be successful, but until I put it into practice, it's just an intellectual exercise.
Good point.
And
Yeah.
and it, uh, and even when even when I remember coming back and showing you what I was doing, and you went, could you when you do that, could you go a little wider? Just the way the corrections would work. Okay, and I make a note of it, and I go back and I try to do it again, and I come back the next week. Okay, but more when you get to the stop. When you get to the top, it's just a stop, and then there were it felt very much like music lessons, and it was, and by me treating it that way and practicing and really making a note of what you're trying, what you are directing me to do, um, yeah, it made a huge difference. It was frustrating in the beginning, but I'm glad I bought into it because the results now are, I'm very happy.
But I do know, and I have to say this, because I think as speech pathologists, we have to be very careful that we're not paternalistic with adults. Like, we don't treat them like children, and we don't treat them like our children in particular. And I think that can happen. You have to be careful that you don't slide into that. And the whole homework thing is huge. Like I was saying to Gregory the other day, like therapists are change agents, and we have to find a way to help people change something that has happened to them that they didn't deserve and they don't want and is miserable, and like how to ease people into that change process is pretty tricky.
Or allowing me to recognize that, hey, this, I have to do this at home. I have to do this regularly. Like showing up once a week for an hour, make me better will not, like kind of things. So it worked. It worked very well for me, and yeah, I was very happy with where I've gotten to. Like, but I still want to go further. There's still further to go. Repetition is the key. Like sticking to it, doing it every day. You may feel, there were plenty of days, Allison, where I woke up and I thought, I don't want to work out. I don't want to do speech. I don't want to journal. But I did what I could within the energy budget that I had for that day. And that's an important concept that was part of my recovery. Was, okay, what are the critical things I need to get done every day? I need to do my physical exercise. I need my stretching, my cardio, and my strength. I need to do my speech for an hour, and I treated it just like this the same way. And then I need to do my journaling, I need to shower, and I need to eat. Those five things. Everything else is extra. And so I would target those things and push to get those things done every day, no matter what. Then everything else was extra. My athletic therapist, Tyne, when I first started seeing her, I would. This is the football experience. I would push so hard that I would hurt other things. So when I had my hand exercises, I would push so hard to stretch if I was doing nerve flossing or different things. I would hurt things. I was so bent on getting better, and like, it's not working unless it hurts, kind of thing. And no, she changed my philosophy about that. It's, I want to go to where I'm comfortable and then go to where I'm uncomfortable and stop there. I don't want to go to where it hurts. And Naomi said the same thing about with when in the beginning when I had really bad headaches. You want to, in the beginning I couldn't read for long periods of time, like 10, 15 minutes. I couldn't. The bright lights were hard again, and you want to go and you want to get out and do these things, but go until you're right past that comfortable point, but before a headache would start.
Mm.
And that's important too. Knowing, identifying your limitations, and even with speech. Like if I were getting, it's not so much like you're using muscles, and I would go to where they started feeling tired, right? Like, try to hold a smile for an hour. You start to feel it. Hold your eyebrows up for an hour. You start to feel it. So again, I treated that the same way, and would stop when I passed the comfortable point to the uncomfortable, but no hurting. So in the end, in the beginning, like I said, I often warmed up singing, just to whatever, and then if if I was getting tired before the end of my hour, because I always tried to shoot for an hour, I would just do some more singing, Allison, and just something that I could just was relaxing, that was easy, that wasn't targeting different things in my face, and eventually I was able to cut down the amount of singing I needed to do, and focus strongly on the exercises. That's when I think I went from that slow curve, and then to the last couple months of just well, getting to where I'm at now, which is like light years from where I was. I mean, I still do my exercises. But it's I'm doing them more to now to just get that last little bit of, because I know there's still more improvement I can reach, and just focusing on speaking slowly, clearly, and doing the exercises that that we have. Music and football gave me a love of practice. Practice till you get till you to better a skill. And I really treated it like that in a lot of ways. And I mean, like we had discussed in our sessions, I would warm everything up and just sing along to a YouTube video on one side and watch me on the other. Just singing whatever. And because for me, singing was an easier communication method. Like I didn't have the dysfluency and word difficulties. It was so it kind of got me pumped up a little bit, and then I could get into the meat and potatoes of my speech. But I don't mind the repetitive part of it, because always find improvement. And I think that, again, that comes back to that being detail oriented with what you're doing, and recognizing that in order for me, in order to get better, I needed to make sure I was watching what I was doing, and make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. As part of my exercises that you had prescribed for me, you suggested watching myself in a video. So, being fairly technically inclined, and having an 11-year-old son who's probably more intuitively gifted with it, we set up my home theater room in the basement, um, with a webcam, and I could see content on one side, and see myself on the other. So part of the things I was doing initially was just forcing myself to look at myself in the TV, because in the beginning it was hard to look at. You have this idea of yourself that you have for your adult life, and the person looking back is not the vision of what you want to see, and how you want to communicate. And yeah, it's a tough thing to see yourself that way, and the desire to look away from that is I mean, it's strong. You know, you want you when you first see yourself in that HD quality 65-inch TV, focused on your shoulders and head. You know, you want to give up. You don't think you're going to get better, but you know, people
What did
smarter
you
than
do? What did you do, Anthony, then to move yourself along?
forced myself to stare at it. You know, I forced myself to look and talk and see the things. You know, when I'm doing my exercises, that my mouth is moving. You know, when you're doing may, me, my, mo, moo. You know that your whole that your jaw is dropping. That your cheek muscles are properly working. That everything's moving the way you want it you want it to, as demonstrated. You know, and that was that was very good.
We'll just do maybe a couple of rounds and see how it goes. So it's like this. May, me, my. Okay, you got that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
May, me, my, mo, moo.
Okay, I can't improve on that. But one thing I would suggest is if you want to just practice controlling your loudness, let's do that quietly now. May.
May, me, my, mo, moo.
Great. Now, why don't we lower your pitch a little? May. Or do it sad. Do it sad.
Yeah, I played with the pitch too. You know, it feels so. You know, when you see yourself doing it, and I just got to add this because when you see yourself doing this, you think, I look ridiculous. But there's value. There's value to it. I don't know how to express it enough. Like, you think, how the hell is this going to help you? Like, it does. It does. Like, yeah. Okay. So when I do the sad one, I do the eyebrows. Me, me, my, mo, moo. So the whole, like, that one was one of the hardest ones to do in the beginning, um, because you have to downturn the mouth. You have to keep the eyebrows up, but it, it's it was such a different feeling the first time I tried that one. I couldn't do it. I couldn't keep the sad expression.
Okay.
Good.
Try an excited expression now. And Anthony, like, so it's really big, you know, getting your voice into your head. So be thinking of pulling your voice up and into
Yes,
your head,
yes,
right?
yes. Posture support. May, me, my, mo, moo.
That's awesome.
But that's what practice does. Like, you know, I know it's easy to look at this now, and for people who are going to watch this, they're going to think, well, that guy's got it. But it's too bad we didn't video the beginning ones, because the beginning ones were so sucky by comparison. But not sucky, but just like, there was a lot that I needed to improve on. There was too much going on for me to do all of those things at once. And like, now, having done it, you know, 20 times a day for how many months and months now, like, it's become. And even just the way, like, I find myself when I'm talking now, sometimes I'm doing that, just because I'm remembering it from the exercise. And so much of how I guess we speak is just that memory. And it didn't dawn on me that that's what you were trying to get me to develop again after months and months of.
Well, the thing you told me that you were a person who used your hands, and you quit using your hands. Like, I'm not kidding. Your hands were on the table. You left them there. It was almost like you're bracing yourself. So getting your hands going was you.
It's easy for people to tell you, oh, it's going to get easier. It's going to get better, but you so desperately want to believe it, but you don't believe it. You don't believe it. And I guess the best advice that was given to me and that I could give to others is you don't have to believe it right now. In fact, it'll probably be impossible to believe right now. But what you do have to do is give it a chance. Let the process work and give it a fair chance. You're not going to see. This isn't like digging a hole. This is building a house kind of thing. You got to let the process work, and you got to buy into it to the point where you're being invested in your recovery, and you're going to see results. You're not going to see them, the next day or the day after, or maybe even for a long time, but they're going to come, and you just have to buy into that process. Don't have to believe it. It's very difficult to believe, but just be invested in it and do what they're telling you to do, and trust that they know what they're doing.